Podcast with your host, Clinton Washington, and your co-host, D'Angelo Gillespie. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of 2 Cent the Podcast. This is Uncle Clint, your one and only. I'm sitting here with my co-host, D'Angelo Gillespie. What's going on, my man?
I'm all right.
Man, you know what? We got one hell of a podcast today.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
One hell of a podcast.
One hell of a podcast. This episode is created to blow your mind. We are going to
some lofty expectations.
Yeah, but that's what it's created to blow your mind.
Okay.
This is going to be a very informative episode.
I'll agree with that.
And this episode is a challenge to black folks to listen, pay attention, and learn.
White folks, y'all too.
White folks, if you're out there listening, we want you to listen to this too. This doesn't exclude you.
Something to talk about at the cookouts.
Right. So this is about perspectives. This is about knowledge. This is about education. And we're going to get right into it. Today's podcast is just us sitting around and learning from one of our OGs. Right now, I got my homeboy in the house with us. His name is James Garland. What's going on, man?
How you doing, man?
All right, man. So you know what? James and I were sitting and we were having a conversation, and we was conversing on black billionaires, and he gave me some information that blew my mind. So James, let's start off like this. How many black billionaires are there in the United States?
In the United States, there are 7 to 9 black billionaires right now.
Okay, 7 to 9 black billionaires in the United States. I mean, that's a pretty lofty number, right?
Not if we talking about the population, but I digress.
It's a nice number for black billionaires until you compare it to this. How many white billionaires are there in San Francisco?
There are about 3 to 4 times as many white billionaires in San Francisco than it is black billionaires in the United States. And San Francisco is only roughly 8 miles by 8 miles.
Yeah,
64 square miles.
64 square miles of billionaires.
That's what I was thinking when he said it. Is it good? I'm like, I mean, what we compared it to? You know what I'm saying?
But you know, that's the thing about it. Okay, so we got about 7 to 9 black billionaires in the United States. But here's another question I have to ask. How many of those black billionaires became billionaires doing anything other than entertainment?
Right now, there are 2 of them.
2.
I believe Dave Stewart and also Robert F. Smith.
What does Dave Stewart do?
Dave Stewart does investment and Robert F. Smith does investments. Most of the black billionaires that we have in the United States make their money through entertainment.
Yes. Oprah Winfrey, entertainment. Jay-Z, entertainment. I mean, the list goes on and on.
We said billionaires.
Billionaires. We're not talking about millionaires. We're talking about billionaires.
Yeah. I'm saying that. Yeah, okay.
So now, I'm trying to build this for you folks that's listening. There's 7 to 9 black billionaires. There are 3 to 4 times more white billionaires in San Francisco, a 64 square mile city. And our black billionaires made their money from entertainment. Other than 2. But they made their money from entertainment. Black people in entertainment, what does that make you think about?
Slavery.
Okay, slavery. Okay, but what though?
What a lot of people don't understand is that we have a plantation mentality in the United States. It's still a plantation mentality, and it's started from slavery. If we look at how slavery was started, we were brought here by means of capitalism. We're here to make money. That's the basic reason that they brought slaves here, to make money. And a lot of the money that they made, they first came here, brought slaves here, they needed slaves to work on the plantation. They had a bunch of land, and they needed the land to be worked. They needed to have free labor, so we brought slaves here. If we looked at how the plantation were laid out, you had the master had his wife, possibly children. He had slaves. The slaves were there. There was the slaves that lived in the house and the slaves that lived in the field. The slaves that lived in the house ate pretty good because they ate pretty much what master ate or what he had left over. They either lived in the attic or they lived in the basement, and they wore decent clothes. Some of them were maids, some of them were butlers, some of them were cooks, some of them were just over there to look over the other slaves. The slaves that worked in the field, they had it bad. They lived in shacks, huts. Raggedy was misused. They were mistreated. They didn't have anything. No one really cared about them. All they had was just the cotton fields, or they had the sugarcane fields in which the masters were making money by selling cotton or sugarcane or other goods. In the United States, we have the same thing going on today.
Explain.
We have entertainers who are what we consider, we don't look at real wealth as far as millions now. We look at real wealth as far as billions. There are a number of billionaires that are making real wealth, and they live what I consider the house Negro. The house Negroes live very well. Then there are the field Negroes who live out in the field, the ones who you turn the TV on. They may get shot 7 times in the back. They may have they knee being put on by the police. They're being incarcerated. They're being shot. They're being murdered. And no one looks at them because they are expendable. This is how it was during the plantation years of slavery in the United States. It's still that way today. We just don't look at it that way, but it is still slavery. And believe it or not, just like years ago, they had people who were abolitionists who were against slavery. If you look at what's going on all throughout the United States, the majority of the people who are protesting, they're not black people. They're white people. Those are the people who are against, quote unquote, slavery. They're for equality. They're for racial justice. They're for all of these things that we had going on for hundreds of years. Slavery has not changed in the United States. It's just a different perspective of how we're being treated as slaves. People do not understand. A false sense of white superiority creates a real sense of black inferiority. I have lived in South Central Los Angeles. I've lived in the Bay Area in East Palo Alto. I've been to Chicago. I've been to New York. I've been to a lot of inner city places. The mentality that we have as young black men are such that we feel inferior. We feel that we are angry. We feel that life is not giving us what we deserve. I had an opportunity 26 years ago to visit my dad who lived in Chicago. And I had lived in black neighborhoods, and I've been to from Nicholson Gardens in South Central LA to Pueblo Downs housing projects. But when I went to Chicago and went and hung out and went past the Cabrini Greens housing projects in Chicago and spent time hanging out at a barbecue with my dad in Chicago, and it was maybe about 7 or 8 guys hanging out. And we were just hanging out. We had been eating, some of them drinking, and we were just sitting there chopping it up. And they got to talking about what was going on in the streets. Now, mind you, this is not today. This was 26 years ago. And as we sitting around talking, the guys started comparing gunshot wounds. And at that time, I think I was in my early 30s. And I was the only one there that had not been shot. And I couldn't believe it because I grew up in South Central LA. I had seen the Crips and the Bloods. I seen all of the things that was going on in the hood. I seen all of this, which was wrong. And in my mind, that's like, man, I grew up in a bad hood, but this is really crazy. But it's crazy only because of our mindset. Growing up as a kid in South Central LA, growing up years later in the city of East Palo Alto, I saw what was going on. My earliest days of even understanding what my existence was really pretty much three things. I was born in Jackson, Mississippi during the time of Jim Crow. The first thing I realized in Jackson, Mississippi, the only thing that I could really remember was the red clay of the roads in Jackson, Mississippi. A few years later, my dad, because he couldn't get work in Mississippi, we moved to Miami, Florida. We lived on Miami, Florida on the beach. The only thing I remembered in Miami, Florida was the burnt orange skies in the evening times of Miami, Florida. That, and in the evening time, we'd watch Jackie Gleason. That's all I remember.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. This plantation mentality. We've heard people like Kanye West, Candace Owens tell us that we're on a Democratic plantation, and this is not to challenge anybody's political party, but we hear this from, in my opinion, people who needs to be on some type of medication. Tell us about this plantation. But it is a real thing. We are seriously on a plantation. Other than slavery, how are we still on this plantation in your opinion?
I believe that we're on this plantation because of our mentality. The Bible says, as a man thinks, so as he thinks, so as he is, pretty much. If you think a certain way, you're there. And if from generation to generation, if you have been taught because of the process of thinking that you are less than, you will act like you're less than.
You'll put your own ceiling up there.
Pretty much. I mean, and from the time that we are born, we are not really taught. We are not really educated. We are indoctrinated. We are indoctrinated with white supremacy. That's the bottom line. You go to church and you're taught that there is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. And don't get me wrong, I am a Christian. I am not a Muslim, but this is real. I grew up in watching television and seeing the Lone Ranger, which Tonto was a sidekick. So Tonto took second place under the Lone Ranger. I watched Tarzan, which all the Africans running around Africa, but there's only one white man that's in control, which is Tarzan. Everything that we are taught, and not really taught, we are indoctrinated. But because my mother was an educator, my mother didn't want us to be indoctrinated. She wanted us to be educated. And a lot of times now we're not educated. We are indoctrinated. And then people we are not educated. I mean, you go through life and you look at how things are. When you are black and you are shown things that you think that you feel like you're inferior. You feel like you're less than. So a lot of times when people say, well, look at the high crime rate in Chicago, just like you said, the sister Candace Owens spoke on that about what goes on in Chicago. But what she didn't speak on is what was the mentality like. If you, for some reason, started a race and someone said, Clinton, I tell you what, we're going to run this race. We're going to put you at the starting point. But I'm going to run against you. And we're going to run a 400-yard dash. You're going to start at the starting point, and I'm going to start at 399 yards. All of a sudden, the whistle is blown. All I had to do was just step over. And then I'm going to turn around and look at you and say, hey, bro, what took you so long?
Yeah.
How come you're not where I'm at?
Mm-hmm.
We don't understand that socially, economically, mentally, spiritually, financially, we are not there yet because of we have not been taught what we need to learn. We don't understand. My mother used to say that if you can only see across the street, you can only go across the street.
So let me back you up a little bit. So one of the things you said about being indoctrinated and you mentioned about the shows that you watched back in the day, and I think I'm more aligned to believing what you say, because when I think about movies, so let's start just one movie, Hidden Figures, right? Hidden Figures, you had 3 black females who were highly intelligent scientists, and they made some very big headway in NASA.
Yeah.
Now, when I think about this indoctrination into white supremacy, you don't have movies like that without having a white savior.
It's true.
You know, because Kevin Costner's character, I think, is Al Harrison or something like that, until he made them take the signs off the bathroom,
That's right.
they wasn't seen as equals.
Let me ask you: do you believe that is it? I guess what I want to ask
Is it
you
intentional?
Well, it's damn sure intentional. That's not the question. I want to know: is it fallacy? You think that's not true? Do you think at that time, if we're being honest with ourselves, gentlemen, do you need someone to open the door for you? Because to a lesser extent, we can discuss now, but we ain't talking about now. Let's talk. Let's stay in the moment and say, okay, that's the character he's portraying. Do you believe that perhaps that this was needed? And I mean, because I figure it's only wrong if it's fallacy. If it's true, does it also make it a problem that we shouldn't discuss? You get what I'm saying, James?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that the way things are laid out, and don't get me wrong, I think everyone and every individual has to think for themselves, but every individual has to search within themselves in order to progress. Because I look at my life and I look at others who I have seen who have progressed. They are trying to get out of the field.
Yeah.
If you look at professional athletes, pretty much 90-something% of professional athletes busted their ass to get out of the
I was
field.
gonna say, but see, I don't think there might be a false equivalency, because I don't think they need nobody. Because I feel like when people see you as something that they can use to elevate themselves, it ain't that I'm letting you in. The benefit is all mine.
Well, and I agree with you, but are we back to the white savior? Because let's just start with football.
Well shit. But see, what I'm saying is, we don't need in that situation. Now those women, not saying they did or didn't, I'm not sure because I wasn't there, but when it comes to athletics, I don't believe that a white savior umbrella fits, because I feel like this quote unquote white savior.
Of course it does.
No, I'm the prize.
Okay.
I'm the prize, and it's not just simply you, white savior, trying to have me. There's all these recruits. There's all these leagues. And see, everybody want me. Everybody want me, so I don't need you to save me. Like in business, you do. In business,
no, you still got a white savior.
But if we're talking NASA, if we're talking business, then I say you might need a gatekeeper. In athletics,
I think athletics is even more so.
You think?
You can run it. You can run as fast as you want to. You can jump as high as you want to. You can dribble as best as you want to. But me as this white business owner or white team owner, I have to want you.
It's 30 of y'all.
It don't matter.
If I can drive your bottom line and keep you in the black, you dealing with me, man.
Okay, but I'm not dealing with you.
You
know what? Because you know what? I can take the number 1 draft pick, or I can take the number 33rd. But you know what?
When's gonna make you more money though?
Yeah, but I have to want you. I have to be willing. I have to be willing to sign you to a contract to elevate you out of your current situation.
With that logic, you're telling me that I need to be a upstanding citizen to be on your team. You know that ain't true.
Well, you know what? It's not true, but it's true. I mean, okay, so
people draft guys who come out of college with all kind of issues.
Right, but those issues don't drive down my bottom line. But you look at Dak Prescott. People who look like him are getting shot and murdered by police.
Exactly.
But Dak Prescott told us all that you need to stand for the national anthem. You shouldn't disrespect the military because you know what? That guy over there that owns the Dallas Cowboys, he owns Dak Prescott's contract. And during a contract year, Dax wasn't willing to stand with a Colin Kaepernick.
Dak is out of his fucking mind. If Dak, you know what the problem, that goes back to what James was saying. He can only see across the street. Because if he knew his own self-worth, he would have told him to go to hell.
Yeah, but
because there's 30 other damn teams out there.
But look at it like this. James made a good point. Are you willing to go back into the field, or you rather stay in this house?
They want to stay in the house. I mean, anybody with logically looking at it would want to stay in the house. You look at the amount of time and practicing and all of this that we, as black men, are trying to make sure that we're not in the field. Whether you're playing basketball, whether you're playing football, whether you're a comedian, whether you're an actor or whatever you are, because
you think it's a conscious decision?
It has to be a conscious decision, and it's a decision based on us trying to survive.
Look at Terry Crews. How can you sit here and publicly almost denounce your own people?
That ain't what he said.
Terry Crews, well, you know, okay.
That ain't what the man said.
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
But this is the thing
I
about
want
it.
to see where you're going with it.
When Terry Crews sits up here and he tells Black Lives Matter to be careful about becoming a black supremacist group, it's like you're missing the point here.
Yeah, but I believe he said too much silly shit before, so now we looking at him.
Well,
Think about it, Clint.
When has Terry Crews ever been an A-list celebrity up until now? No. Be honest.
He's still not.
But
I get what you're saying.
he has a hosting job. He has more work.
But I believe, Clint, everything should be taken in context. What I understand exactly what Terry Crews meant by saying that, and I've elocuted points to that same thing. But I didn't say it like that. I said any minority where you slope a playing field eventually becomes the majority. That's what I said. That's how I said it. Now, Terry Crews said it. He just didn't say it like I just said it.
No, Terry Crews have made several comments to
James, you understand it's the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing, because you know what? Terry Crews purposely is trying to downplay an organization or a movement because it serves him to do so.
For what?
Just like Terry Crews, okay.
What
Here's
is it gonna get him though?
Okay, here's a case. It keeps him employed. It keeps him at the top of the list of considerations.
You think so?
Yes. And, you know, Terry Crews made this comment. He said that he was part of the Me Too movement. And I think that's...
To a lesser extent, he is.
You know what? Let me tell you something. Terry Crews should kick himself in the mouth.
Don't get back in.
No, and this is why. This is why. You and I know women, and we may have been guilty of it or not, but women have not had a voice.
It's true.
And the minute especially black women.
It's true.
And the minute they get a voice, and that voice was created by black women, they created this atmosphere where this Me Too movement was gaining some steam. And then a black man, jumps on board to try to derail the train focus on him.
Listen, Clint, you can't do that.
No, yes, you can.
Listen, I hear what you're saying. However, if there's any validity to what this man said, Clint, you could.
You know what? Let me tell you something.
You cannot do that shit.
Let me tell you something. If a woman is trying to give you knowledge and information on breast cancer,
even if I agree with you, man, I would not say that publicly.
If a woman is speaking to you about breast cancer, why am I going to start talking about prostate cancer?
First of all,
it's still cancer, right?
Okay, what if the man had breast cancer? That's apples to oranges.
But
what if he came out and said he had breast cancer? Men can have breast cancer.
Yeah, men can have breast cancer.
Okay, now what if Terry Crews? Now I get what you're saying, Clint, but it's not a false equivalency because he's saying the exact same thing.
But it's not. That's not
saying that because of the power dynamic. That a white
we're not gonna keep excusing. We're not gonna keep excusing a black man that wants to speak over a black woman.
Man, you can't even frame it like that.
Yes, you can.
He's saying it happened to him the same
Okay,
thing.
but you know what, Terry? You had all the years.
Man, no.
You had all the years and muscles and height and fighting skill and everything else to speak out on what happened to you, but you chose to speak out when women were talking?
Clint, that is the same thing.
No, it's not.
That's the same thing we tell women who didn't come forward before, and then they say, I felt this was a time where my voice will be listened to, and Clint,
exactly,
he could feel the same way.
Okay, but you know what? That wasn't your platform.
Stop making me defend him, because I don't want to defend him.
But that wasn't. That's the problem. Is it was not his platform to speak on.
He is a victim.
No, he is a victim of wanting attention.
All the platforms have been, to a certain point, hijacked. To tell you the truth. And the reason why I say that is this. We look at how we are black people. For years, women have looked at themselves, and because they didn't see themselves, or society didn't see themselves as eloquent, or that Marilyn Monroe type, or that iconic, beautiful figure that we know black women are.
The cosmetology
okay, now
of Vogue models.
Let's stop and think. Every form of our life has been hijacked. You look at who's the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, but Elvis Presley didn't make his music. He hijacked his music from black folks. Come on, let's look at it. Every aspect of it. You can go down to, we'll just recently come to, let's look at today's situation. Growing up as a kid, if you were dark-skinned, thick lips, big hips, a lot of young black girls didn't like the fact that they had all these attributes. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. They didn't like it. They didn't like the fact that their hair may have been kinky or naughty, and C.J. Walker made a lot of money because she made the pressing comb.
Right.
So they didn't like any of this. Now let's go back. This is 2020. Let's come up. It's 2020 now. One of the youngest white billionaires made her money because she got collagen implants in her lips. She got injection in her hips.
Chloe Jenner.
She got tan skin. All the attributes that black women for many years were shunned and did not like, she's a billionaire behind it.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm coming from? This is how it is. We can go even deeper. Let's go a little deeper. In the days in which the slaves would take off and they would leave, the masters would have the overseers get their dogs and hunt down the slaves. They loved them dogs. They used them dogs not only to hunt the slaves down, but to hunt for food and whatnot. Now, we go back a few years. Michael Vick got incarcerated for killing dogs. Don't get me wrong. I love dogs. I got 2 dogs myself. Do I love my dogs better than I love my son? Do I love my dogs better than I love my mother? Do I love my dogs more than I love my father? No. But it has not been one white man that has been prosecuted and incarcerated for killing a black man. But Michael Vick got incarcerated for killing a dog. The dog's life is valued more than our life is valued as a black man.
Absolutely. That's why they play crazy when you tell them Black Lives Matter. They act like you speaking Spanish, like they don't know why it's the call. And the crazy thing is at this point, man, I don't even have the energy to explain to them no more. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, I don't know, man. I almost feel like I'm at a point. I'm at a point. I told somebody a few weeks ago. I was like, man, I don't think I have the emotional bandwidth in trying to protect my own mental health, man. You got to stop having conversations with people who don't want to hear you. You know what I'm saying? And you really do. And I used to think, well, people say things like this and people act like this because they don't know, and then that's them being ignorant. And if you're ignorant, then it's okay because you can be taught and you can now I can tell you and I can share this with you. And I used to believe that when you tell someone the truth that is undeniable and that can be researched, then they can't go back. You can't go back from that. If I tell you the truth about something and you go back and you see, oh, he was right, you can't turn back from that. You know what I'm saying? So I used to believe that. But now I see, I truly believe they already know we're telling the truth and they just don't care.
It's true. I mean, when you learn the truth of that as a black person, you are more than what people perceive you to be. Once you understand that and you completely know that, hey, I am not inferior. One of the main reasons that when I got on Facebook, I went to a predominantly white high school. And some of the kids I went to high school with, I thought I would never hear from them again, to tell you the truth. But the reason that I had good relationship with them is because I knew I was equal. I didn't feel inferior. I can remember in the early 70s when the movie Roots came out, and black folks was going to school punching white people in the head because it was the first time they had actually seen how slaves were mistreated when they saw Roots. I didn't feel that way because I'm not angry at you because I know I'm equal to you. When we feel inferior, we lash out. We get angry. We get frustrated.
I agree.
And part of the reason we feel inferior because we, as individuals, do not completely understand the truth. When you know the truth, when you know that you are not inferior, when you know that they are not superior, you know within yourself that you are equal to them. And Black Lives Matter is not a movement where we want to feel that we are better than. We want the move is there because we want to feel that we are equal.
Exactly. Equal or included. And that's the dumb shit I don't understand when people say, you know, I'm always on Clinton page. He has some colorful characters on his page.
Oh, I know. I seen him.
So a few weeks ago.
Hello, my conservative friends.
I was talking to this woman on his page and she was like, there you are, D'Angelo, being a victim. And my thing to that is, the fuck are you talking about? Like, when you say a victim, like, I just don't understand the position of someone who says shit like that. Like, are we gonna just say this shit ain't true? I mean, I just, for me, I want to know what direction you coming at this shit from. When you say, well, the black people are acting like victims. Well, shit. Let's unpack that. Black people are acting like victims, and white people would like us not to act like victims. Well, are we talking about slavery? Because if we're talking about slavery, that happened, okay? And okay, so maybe, but let's go past that. Let's throw all that away. Let's say we're not even talking about slavery no more, because a lot of white people like to say shit like, "Well,
you were never a slave.
You were never a slave, and I wasn't a slave owner, so we're equal." Now, even if I was willing to go with that, my thing to this is, what are we going to do about systemic racism?
Exactly.
Institutional racism. Can we address that? And that's my biggest part. My biggest thing to it is, I truly believe that a lot of white people get hung up on the slavery thing. And, you know, even if, and while I believe it definitely has lingering effects, let's say if we were willing to throw that all out, I don't understand why white people can't even acknowledge systemic racism. Just acknowledge it. Acknowledge that this happens. If you don't know, simply explore. Do your research. And that's what people want us to do.
Well, it's an easy answer to that question. Why won't they acknowledge it? You want to acknowledge a fault? If you acknowledge,
you just said your ass went here. Remember?
Well, but what you're acknowledging, if you acknowledge that there is systemic racism, you're acknowledging that you yourself need to lose some of your privilege. You're acknowledging that you are benefiting from certain things that you say don't exist. So you can't acknowledge systemic racism because then you would have to acknowledge white privilege.
It's true, but it's hard to acknowledge something that you yourself cannot really see. Okay, I give you the perspective of if we are all going to a basketball game and the Blazers are playing. Now, what happens on the court doesn't change. Everybody that goes to the game is going to have a completely different perspective because everything that they see is not just a game. You see people all the time who say that there's no systemic racism, especially within the police department. But those people who are saying that there's no systemic racism are people who have not been to the places where systemic racism exists.
True.
You look at, in this country, if you look at every major point in which rioting took place, you look at the 1965 Watts riot, you look at the 1967 riot in Miami, Florida, you look at the 1992 riot in Los Angeles. Every one of those riots, the basis of those riots was because of systemic racism and police brutality. We have to look at why are the police brutalizing black people. You got to go back in history. When you go back in history and you look at the fact that a lot of people migrated from the South. My parents and my uncles and my grandmother, they migrated from the South. They migrated from the South in two phases. They migrated in the early 1920s. They migrated from the South, and they moved to like the Midwest. There was Chicago. Some went up north to New York, and they moved as far as to the Midwest, Chicago and other cities. Then there was a second migration where black folks migrated from South to leaving Jim Crow, because Jim Crow was going on. People were being completely mistreated during those times. They migrated all the way to the West Coast. They went as far as to California, Oakland, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. When people migrated to Los Angeles, a lot of blacks were migrated to Los Angeles, but because of bigotry and hatred and systemic racism, they were only allowed to live in roughly about 4 to 7% of the city. And that was in Compton and Watts area. So this is where black people lived. Okay. So since they can only live there, people don't understand the mentality that when you have a system to where the education system is not good, the health system is not good, the economic system is not good, and you got a bunch of black people that are uneducated with bad health and no money, what are you going to have? People are going to start fighting. People are going to start being against each other. And then you drop in a little bit of that Willie Lynch mentality to where the slave owners said, hey, in order to keep your slaves in line, we're going to pit one from against the other. And if once you pit one to each other, before you know it, we got ghettos. We're the only people that label our communities a name that is disrespectful, because that's how they look at us. These are ghettos, slums, hood. This is what our neighborhoods. You don't hear I hate to say it this way, but you don't hear the Jewish or the Italians, or you don't hear the Irish, or you don't hear the white folks naming there's the slaves, or ghettos, or slum. They don't call it that. But this is what our neighborhoods is called. Because what happens is this: systemic racism, hatred, and bigotry is all clumped into one. Now let's go a little deeper. Once the people were moved from the South, leaving Jim Crow and coming to Los Angeles, they had a police, I think the police chief's name was Police Chief Parker. He had a problem now. He had all of these black folks coming to Los Angeles, did not know how to police them. So what does he do? He go back south and get the police back south to come to California and start militarizing the police department. So then Los Angeles became the most militaristic police department in the United States. They got people they have chokeholds, they have all these other tactics in order to police black folks. So what happens, before you know it, Los Angeles becomes militaristic But they have all of these people moving to Los Angeles. Then they turn around and they say, okay, policemen have their committee. They go from all over the country. They bring all of these policemen, Police Parker, and all of these other police throughout the country to teach them how to police black folks. So this is why it went from the South, in which people were trying to get away from Jim Crow. They moved to the West Coast, and then all of a sudden, what they ran from, the police department brings to them.
Yeah.
So, if you look at how black folks are being policed in this country, we have a president that says he's the president of law and order. Law and order does not necessarily mean that you shoot, stab, choke, beat, brutalize people just because they are a different color. That's not law and order. Police are made to put down the law. They are not the law, but they are made to put down the law. Some police here in this country, they're not properly trained. They're not. We spend more time here making sure that people are educated in jobs that may not necessarily be the most important job than we do worrying about the people who are educated in the most important job. So in this country, we see that the police are scared. We see, and the police being a police is a tough job. Trust me, it's a tough job. But my point is this: if you're not equipped to do the job, don't do it.
Exactly.
When you talk about police, I always say this to people: you can't put a person's heart in an application.
You can't.
You don't know who or what that person is. The same pool of human beings that we get pedophile, rapists, murderers, women beaters, whatever, are the same pool of human beings we get police officers and military folks from.
That's true.
I can speak from a military point of view, and, my comrades that I serve with, I salute you, appreciate your service. But as a military veteran, I can't say that 100% of the people that I served with were law-abiding citizens.
That's true.
Some of them were people who were running from the law. Some of them never got caught. Some of them were drug addicts in the military, and the military didn't cause their drug abuse. Some of them chose to do these things because they could. In the same way that you would have a person put on a police uniform, put on a badge, strap a gun to his waist, and then put a throwaway in his ankle holster for that moment that he runs across that young black kid that he wants to frame. And they say, it doesn't make sense. Why would a police officer want to wake up with the thought of killing someone? That's what murderers do.
It's true.
Murderers wake up with the intent to murder. And just because you put on a uniform, it doesn't stop you from being that evil person inside. But the sad part is, because you can't weed out evil, because you can't tell what's in a person's heart, the evil are getting the good people killed. And I'm not talking about the Trayvon Martins or the Tamir Rices. I'm talking about the police officers that are being ambushed.
It's true.
Yeah.
They're being ambushed not because of anything that they personally did. Some of these police officers, they would die to save the life of a 2-year-old that caught a stray bullet.
It's true.
They would die for that. But they're being murdered and killed because the evil you can't detect in the police department are causing the lives of the good cops that are out there. And these cops are being ambushed. They're being shot. They're being killed.
And in no way do I want to suggest that Two Cent the Podcast is ever advocating for shooting police. That being said, everyone's got to choose what side they're going to stand on, man. And what I mean by that is if all of us on the team and we go into this 7-Eleven, man, and we rob it. I don't care the two of y'all was in the damn car, man. We all going to jail for armed robbery. I want everybody to understand that shit before we pop this off today.
That's real.
Now, and I only say that because, like I said, I'm not for the killing the cops. I'm also not for fucking throwing the rock and hiding your fucking hands. Like, if you understand that this is what you're dealing with at work, if we understand, listen, man, if us three and two other guys, the five of us go in this store, like I said, we are all killers tonight if somebody dying here, okay? We are all killers tonight. Now, even the people in the car, if they ride out with us, understand this is what you was a part of tonight, and that's my problem with
that's what the law says.
But that's my problem with that's what the damn law tell us. But as you can see, damn it, we got cops being, well, this cop wasn't indicted. This cop, what the fuck you talking about? We was all there. Only I got to kill him. Only I got to be the trigger man. All of us gonna go to jail for it though. And I only say all this to say, if you are a cop and you know that the shit ain't right, or you know you got some people in your department that's doing the wrong thing, and you remain silent and complicit, that's you, then. That's you. That's you too. Then you are a part of the problem. You are a part of the problem. I don't understand when people say, oh, well, not all cops are. Well, shit, not all of us shot this dude, but we was all in the same car. We all got the same damn 30 years. Now, I don't understand that. Now, either we are going with the law and we are going out with either we doing it one way or I don't understand it. Like, how is it good for us and not, and, you know what I'm saying, and not good for them?
Well, I can explain it to you. The reason why it's that way is because our democracy is a hypocrisy. That's exactly what it is. Our democracy is a hypocrisy. It doesn't make a difference what a person does. It's who does it. One person can do one thing and that's okay. Another person can do the same thing and that's not okay. Because there's a hypocrisy that we have in this country. And it's been that way since the beginning of time.
And let's start calling them laws.
They call it laws, but it's truly, we are very hypocritical in this country. And it's been that way from the beginning of time. We stop and look at, and the reason why I say that we still have plantation mentality is this. In the days of the slaves, the field Negroes had people out there that watched over them in the field who usually walked around, may have had a hound dog or even a shotgun over his shoulder, and we called them overseers. Now we have the same people, except the shotgun is not over his shoulder and it's not a hound dog unless it was in the 60s. The gun is on his hip and we call him officer. Yeah. It's the same thing. And believe it or not, if we are in the field and we are shot, beat up, killed, or what have you, that's for them is just the cost of doing business. There is a hypocrisy in this country that people don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about how we look at what's going on now, and I don't want to get too political, but we look at what's going on right now with the Supreme Court justice. Is that not the ultimate hypocrisy when a few years ago, when Merrick Garland, the Democrats wanted to put Merrick Garland in the Supreme Court justice, they didn't even look at the man. They said, no, we don't want to do that. We got to wait.
Who was the president at the time? Do you remember?
Obama was president.
Yeah, that's a...
Here is where the hypocrisy
It is a hypocrisy because this is the same. Because if we going by what Trump said the other damn night and why he feels empowered to make the decision, then in that case, damn it, the same thing would have held true for Obama.
Well, see, my argument is such that a lot of times people don't understand that it's not a matter of Republican or Democrat. It's not a matter of liberal or conservative. We are hypocritical on both sides.
Okay.
We're definitely hypocritical on both sides. Now, the same people that said that it was not right at the time when Supreme Court Justice, I think his name was Scalia. When he passed away, it was not right, and it was like 8 to 10 months before the election, and it wasn't right. those same people that said that that's not right are the same people who
Back
within a month is wanting to put this person in office. This is the hypocrisy.
They actually did it within a day.
Yes.
They came up with a name within a day.
But you know what he said? He justified it by saying it was technically inside of his term. And
it was inside of Obama's term too.
It was. And I feel like if he would have wanted to be more rigid about it, you think he could have,
But the same hypocrisy goes on in everything in this country.
So what let me hold on. You guys just gave me a question. If Obama would have stood strong in his positions, have we, and I'm going to say we, because we're all gainfully employed, we're all not willing to take the risk of going back into the field.
Exactly.
Right? We're not willing to take the risk to go back into the field. Right? Could that been the same thing with President Obama? He wasn't willing to end up back into the field. And this is why I say this.
I can't remember the breakdown of the House, but I don't think so. You know what?
Well, no. This is why I say this. Okay. You're the president of the United States. And believe me, I loved Obama. But he made his most powerful comment when it came to police brutality was, if I had, well, no, it wasn't even police brutality. He had to dealing with the death of Trayvon Martin. He said, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin.
Right.
You thought that was a powerful statement?
That was the most powerful statement when it came to the loss of black lives.
Well,
could he have been a little bit more bolder?
I believe that black people just inherently are trying to always be compromising, to be honest with you.
I agree.
I believe that we are always trying to be compromising. We're always trying to be middle of the road. We're always trying to be empathetic.
And we're always trying to forgive.
We are. And we are always trying to be all encompassing of all things, consideration and all the rest of this shit. But we are in the midst of a president who has shown us
he's not willing to compromise.
Not at all. And guess what? What we don't know is
stand down and stand by.
But the thing about it is he's absolutely right. He has absolute power, and he don't have to listen to y'all. Technically, this is inside of his term.
It's true.
He can make this goddamn decision if he want to. They have control. The Republicans have control, and it's their goddamn right to choose.
It's true.
Now,
but is it
had Obama said this shit, it would have been taken all goddamn. He's a dictator. That's what he's doing. This is.
But wait a minute. Wait. We say this same thing about Trump. He's a dictator. This is tyranny.
That's what they got.
This is unpresidential.
Yeah.
We say the same thing, but could we have gotten more not giving a damn about what people say?
Well, where the hypocrisy comes to place is this. If you had taken Obama's resume and written it down on a piece of paper, and you had taken Donald Trump's resume and written it down on a piece of paper,
it would probably been on the cue card, but
okay.
I get your point.
If you do that, and people who are Trump supporters, you don't tell them whose resume is whose resume you think they're gonna go for?
Obama's.
Okay. But the hypocrisy is this. When you start putting a face on that resume, it's just like when a person's filling out a job application and her name is Shaquanda Johnson. And they look at the application, they're going to say, oh, wait a minute. I don't know if we can necessarily hire this person. Because they now know who the person is that's on that resume. We have a huge problem in this country with hypocrisy. I can go really deep into it when I talk about hypocrisy. And I'll give you this, for example. We look at, say, your Nicki Minaj or your Cardi B. And they go out there and they trying to get their money doing what they doing, shaking their ass, whatever they want to do. That ain't a problem. I don't have a problem with people doing that because we know that we're going to try to get our money, how we're going to get our money. But no one talks about the real elephant in the room, too. We look at the First Lady. First Lady done shook a little bit. Not only did she shake a little bit, and I hate to say this because I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings by saying this, but I'm going to keep it 100. this is how I feel. If you are selling yourself in a sexual way for the reason of getting money or monetary things, you are prostituting yourself.
True.
Is that the truth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
When she stepped to Donald Trump, he 24 years younger than her. He have
Older.
He 24 years older than her. He meet her at a party in which he brought another woman. She stepped to him, or he hollered at her. She for real find out, oh, he got a little bread. He got a little bread. Hey, you know what? Whoever's out with, I can roll with him now. Is that not prostitution?
Prostitution.
Is it? I mean, people don't want to hear it.
it's
People
for
don't
damn
want to
sure
say it.
opportunistic. You know, damn sure.
But that's
You
what
know,
prostitution is, opportunity.
And then some people say, well, oh, man, you can't call her no hoe. I'm not calling her hoes.
We call it
Hoes don't get
prostitute.
paid.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, keep it. They don't get
Yeah, she
paid.
definitely got paid.
So my point is this: we have hypocrisy in this country every way you look at it. It's not what somebody does; it's who does it. That's all I'm saying.
I have a question for James before we leave. And this podcast, y'all, we just got James out here giving game. That's all this is. I have a question. I'm glad. How long you been out here in Portland?
I've been here about 13 years.
All right, listen. You're well versed, man. You have a wealth of knowledge. I want to ask you because I'm tired of talking about it online because I'm losing friends. All right, so
You losing friends.
yeah. So okay, first I'm going to tell you what people say. I'm going to tell you my take on it. Then I'll let you expound on it and tell me what you think. So I'm new to Portland, relatively, and I hear people talk about gentrification all the time.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Now, this is a hot button topic for everybody in this state.
Is there a button I can
Now,
push to end this thing now?
Okay, I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. I believe, first of all, I
I
understand.
Just lost 10
I understand.
fans.
Now, what people don't understand is I do not believe redlining. I
Here we go.
almost don't believe redlining and technically gentrification is the same thing exactly.
Oh, there they go. They all leaving.
But I'm going to tell you why. Redlining is unfair housing practices. Redlining means I never got a chance to come there in the damn first place. You restricted me just for a bevy of reasons. We can go into redlining later, but you restricted me from even owning that property. Now then, gentrification, I own that property. My family had that property. That was our name. We had that. We own this. Regardless, property taxes go up, housing increases, when people discuss driving out, and because the property went up, the housing went up, however it happened, you still must agree to sell, or you must continue to pay.
Exactly.
Now, I technically believe we businessmen, if we're going to invest in property, and I get into a lot of the arguments I get into is right here when I say, if I had money, we have money, we all got a business, gentlemen. We want to invest in properties, and people get mad at me when I say if I was a businessman, I would not go into these neighborhoods and find out who stayed there first. That's very low on my totem pole of business. We are going to acquire this property, gentlemen. We're gonna renovate. We're gonna damn hike the damn price up. We're gonna recoup what we invested. We're gonna turn a profit because we are businessmen. That is what we do. People say, well, they should have considered who was in this property and not did it. Who's out here doing bad business for the sake of making people feel better? I hate to dumb down. Of course, I'm dumbing it down and I'm missing.
Well,
shit,
what happens a lot of times is this: there are a lot of cities throughout the United States where they go through phases of gentrification.
Yeah.
I grew up in the city of East Palo Alto, and East Palo Alto went through a phase of gentrification because it's locationally not far from Silicon Valley. My aunt bought a house in 1975. She paid roughly $18,500 for the house. I grew up in that house for 5 or 6 years, and then later on I moved out, and my mother lived there a few more years, but my aunt owned the house. Okay. This was 1975. My cousin sold the house last year. The house that my aunt paid $18,500 for. My cousin sold the house for $980,000. Okay. Because that property in East Palo Alto was a hot commodity. He made good, so he sold the house. But the problem that we have as far as black communities when it comes to gentrification is this. We don't own very much in these neighborhoods. It's the same thing growing up in South Central. And Clinton could attest to this because Clinton saw the same thing. And where the Koreans would come in to our neighborhood and they would get a little corner store. We didn't call it a store. We called it a corner store.
It was the stove.
It was a store. You know what I'm talking about. So, and then the black folks would get mad because not only did they look at you when you walked in the store to make sure you wasn't stealing nothing, but early in the morning, they would have a little door. They didn't want you to come in the store because they didn't open the store all the way. The first time I saw it, I was like, man, come on. I ain't going in there. They would have a little door that they open up. And they would ask you what you want.
We had that in Atlanta. Then they flip it around and give
exactly.
you what you,
okay, so my point is this. We as black folks need to start owning stuff. We have to. I used to see literally the gang violence that went on in South Central LA. This is my hood. This is my man, you don't even own the ground you standing on.
That you're willing to die by.
But you're going to die by a ground that you don't even own, that you standing on. Your mother, your father is probably living in Section 8 and so on and so forth, which ain't got no problem with Section 8. But I'm just saying that we have to learn to own stuff. We have to learn to make sure that we have businesses. We got to learn that we have education. I'm not talking about education as far as just going to school. We got to have knowledge of what's going on. The problem that we have in our community is that we don't understand what the truth is, and we feel inferior to the next person. First thing you want to do is you want to roll up on somebody and you want to hate on them because of this and because of that. Don't hate, congratulate. Come on. We have a Willie Lynch mentality in our community that we need to stop and get rid of. Because I'm going to tell you this. Years ago in the South, they had the KKK that was terrorizing and killing black folks.
Yeah.
They don't need the KKK no more. Black folks killing each other.
Oh. Is that your conservative side, or are we talking about some facts here?
That's facts. They're killing each other.
So when you say we need to own some, are you saying that people shouldn't sell?
I'm not saying that people shouldn't sell. I'm
you
just
know,
saying
you know what I mean?
You can't blame a businessman for wanting to go in there and do.
Well, that's
business.
all. That was okay, but Jane, that's all I be saying.
I agree with you.
And when I do it, they cut my goddamn whole head off.
Well, see, no.
Okay. Hey, Clinton, right now I'm gonna tell you what's going on.
It's business,
I'm gonna tell you what's
man.
going on right now. If you go to East Palo Alto right now, you know who owns a lot of the houses in East Palo Alto? Mark Zuckerberg.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Zuckerberg owns a lot of the houses in East Palo Alto. He owns those houses in East Palo Alto. Why? Because he needs those property. He ain't forced them people to move.
Yeah. They
made a conscious decision to sell.
But that's all I'm saying. Now, all I'm saying to you is if you are offered a fair market price, hell, even if you ain't, damn it, if somebody come in here right now and say, hey, man, I give you $20 for this table, James, I'm going to tell them, no, we in here, we doing a podcast on this table.
But afterwards,
James, they come, damn that. They come in here and say, I give you $1,500 for the, hey, James, Clint, get this shit up off this man's table, please. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying. Right in the middle of the damn podcast, somebody offered me $1,500 for the table. They finna get this table, man. We're gonna put this shit on the ground.
We hold the mics up.
We're gonna hold this shit up in our hand. And I only say that to say, I understand that it's painful to grow up somewhere and then go home. I go home and they don't dig Decatur over all up and down Candler Road and Tilson Road. That is the changing of the times. And if people come in and they want to invest in these neighborhoods, there's nothing I can do about that. That is, and as a grown man, I respect good business.
Well, I agree with you.
I respect good business.
Is the problem?
But people make it seem like black people are being pushed out, and my only thing to that is I'm not pushing black people out. I'm pushing white people out, Asians out.
But wait.
Out.
So
whoever is in the property that we are investing in, gentlemen.
But wait.
We look at it on a map. We ain't even going out there.
Okay, but wait a minute.
Clinton, people make it seem like someone pointed out a black neighborhood and said, I want to drive these people out. When the truth of the matter is, what I really did was saw who got the damn cheapest property value that I can flip and still make a profit.
Well,
regardless of that. Okay, so people are looking at this and they're taking it serious because this was once black influential neighborhoods or whatever.
It's a serious topic,
right? And I agree but there is a Netflix movie, and I'm gonna challenge you and myself to watch. I was just told about it. I haven't watched it, but it talks about the gentrification of Portland.
Oh, on
I think it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. My wife told me about it. Now we're gonna challenge ourselves to watch it.
I'll watch it.
And now I'm kind of.
It's not going to change my view on business.
Well, no, you don't know that until you watch it.
You think? Clint, hold on, time out, man. Hold on, man. I can only entertain so much of this.
Well,
now, look, Clint.
No. We're gonna challenge ourselves to watch it.
You're a business owner, man. You know better than that, man.
No, we're
Clint,
not. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about.
Clint,
we're gonna challenge ourselves to watch it, and once we watch it, if we come back to the table, because now you have created a new.
Listen, and I'm going to say what?
No,
the business don't trump?
You have created a new podcast. You have created a new podcast or a new podcast episode.
We should have some people in
and we need to bring some people in from the Northeast.
That'd be dope.
And the reason why we need to do that, because you know what? I have an opinion on a lot of stuff.
I just don't want black people to get caught up in the same cycle of letting our emotions roll.
It doesn't matter. You're going to go and watch the documentary, and then we're going to come back with some people from Northeast, from Southeast, from some real Portland folks. And they got to be, they have to have been raised in Portland.
I'll be honest with you, Clint. I don't participate in recreational sadness. And what I mean by that is
no. You're dismissive.
I'm not being dismissive.
You're being dismissive.
How?
Because you have your mindset that this was a mentality that black folks did this.
I simply understand the game.
No,
I simply understand the game.
You don't understand the game until you watch the documentary.
Okay, hold on. Before we watch the documentary, I just want to say this, guys. Before we watch it, I believe, before we even watch this, I believe that they're going to tell us individual stories of how these people were driven out of their homes. Now, Clinton, if at any time we see somebody come in these people's house and they kick them out and do not offer them a fair wage for their property and simply pay them nothing and kick these people out on their ass, then y'all win.
Okay, but that's not always the scenario.
But if this is done,
okay, so let me give you one scenario. Let me give you one scenario of a barbershop on Alberta Street. Mm-hmm. This barbershop had been around for years.
Okay.
Somebody was building on Alberta Street. While they was building on Alberta Street, they were attaching themselves to the same building that the barbershop was built on.
Okay.
Right? Since they was doing this new building, the electrical had to be upgraded to meet new code. Right? Hold on.
Wait.
The new electrical.
Why is code necessary, Clint?
That's besides the point.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
So new electrical had to be redone to meet code of this old barbershop.
Okay.
Now, the barbershop guy could get this done with this person over here $5,000, but he's not bonded. But if you want to get this done with a bonded person, here is the company you're going to have to do, and your portion that you have to pay, because we already have the contractor waiting to do it, is $30,000.
Okay.
He ain't got it. He don't have it. Well, if you can't bring this building up to code, then we're going to have to take it from you, because you can't bring it up to code.
Let me ask you a question. Let me just ask you a real question. Say you don't bring it up to code and it burns down in a month. Do I have to still pay you the insurance? Because I don't want to no more.
But that's besides the point.
Business.
No,
business.
you're trying to find a way.
Everybody in life covers their ass.
No, you look at it like this.
How?
Look at it like this. If a building had to be brought up to code.
Say we let them skirt with it.
No. If a building had to be brought up to code.
Yeah.
You should have notified me before you start building in my community. And now that you need my property, you're making everything that I need to do to bring it up to code out of my price range.
Wasn't you going to bring it up to code anyway?
No.
You were never going to have to bring this building up to code?
No. I got a house right now. I got a friend who has a house that she bought over in the 80s. No, in the 90s. She doesn't have to bring that building up to code. You don't have to bring that building up to code. It's grandfather.
Let me ask you something. Do your insurance still cover that?
Yes.
Why would they? That sound like a bad...
No, it's not a bad thing.
No, it sounds like a bad business deal.
No.
Clint,
what it is...
Why would I insure something that's not up to code?
Because...
No, for real. Come on, let's be honest.
Just because the code changes doesn't make it unsafe. It doesn't make it unsafe.
Okay.
You got a 1968 Mustang that you can still drive on the street.
I get what you're saying.
You don't have to go get a smog check.
That's true.
Okay, now I get what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Good analogy.
But now that you want my property, you're finding a way
to muscle me up.
To muscle me out.
So basically what you guys are saying is this. You're saying it's a good business decision for people to go in there and get the property. You saying that, hey, in some cases, it's not just about business. It's how the business is done.
Right.
It's being hijacked.
Okay. I agree with both of you guys when it comes to that, because if you, just like years ago, what they would do is they would go in there and they would hire people who would, whether they were
arsonists
or drug dealers, and they would hire these people to go in there and do stuff within the neighborhood to bring the property value down. Mm-hmm. And then after they bring the property value down,
then they
come in and buy the property up under people. Mm-hmm. This is what they would do. Now, and it's the same thing when it goes back to, how they brought during the crack epidemic, how the government brought and was bringing drugs because they couldn't get the financing they needed for the Iran-Contra scandal. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing.
Shout out to my homeboy Ricky Ross.
Freeway Ricky Ross.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. So they went in there and they said, well, we need funding. How can we get funding? Well, we want to get funding because how are we going to do it? We're going to get all the welfare money. Well, how can we get the welfare money? The government ain't going to give us the welfare money. The government ain't going to give us the welfare money, but the people in the black communities get welfare checks. We can get their checks. How you gonna get their checks? Well, you know what? We can drop drugs and alcohol and all this stuff in there, and they're gonna pay for it. Mm-hmm. And that's how we get the money. This is what goes on. This is why when I talk about the hypocrisy in this country, on the front end, they making it look like, and this is what's weird to me, is if you throw a flag on your shoulder and the people say, "Oh, he got a flag on his shoulder, he's patriotic." How patriotic is it if you fighting for something and you fighting for your freedom, but you got a black person here that's fighting right next to you, and they ain't even fighting for their freedom, they fighting for your freedom.
Yeah.
So that's even more patriotic. You understand where I'm coming from?
I understand.
So I clearly understand where you guys talking about how they mistreat and they go in there and steal property from black folks and gentrification and move them out. And a lot of times they'll move them out to an area to where before you know it, that area can become a ghetto or a slum or whatever you want to call it.
'Cause, the thing that we got to keep in mind is when we're looking at our communities didn't become a ghetto by just happenstance. When you take the things that the neighborhood needed to thrive off of, good schooling, jobs, an economy, it becomes a slum. It doesn't matter that black people live there. It's just intentionally done. When you think of Compton, would you ever think that presidents lived in Compton, that a president lived in Compton? George Bush was raised in Compton.
And fellas, that's what I'm talking about. This goes back to James and his plantation mentality, and you only being able to see across the street. If all of these things are true, and all these things are set up for us all to fail, then how do roses get out of this concrete? This is just what James and you said a little while ago. We all sin we all sin here right now, and to a lesser extent, we all successful. We all made it out. We all are past, as James would say, we in the house. We are no longer in the fields. If all of these things are set up against black people, and all these, then how do you explain what we're doing right now?
It's easy. It's very easy.
Hold on now. Before you explain it, understand the B part of this question is, if you explain how we here, also explain how we still got people in the field if the knowledge is the same.
Well, James said it earlier.
And it's available, but it's available.
But James said it earlier. One, we got to own the plantation.
But we don't right now.
No, but it doesn't matter what we got right now. We got to work towards owning plantation. There's 1,000, I forgot the name of the number of the amount of people in your city of Atlanta. 96 families got together and bought some land. Yeah. They bought the plantation.
But it's the same thing white people say, where aren't we being victims if we say, well, like you just said, Clinton, they took out the essential things out of the hood, making sure that we stayed in poverty and we stayed in that position. But somehow y'all managed to get out of South Central. Right. So yeah. How do you explain it though? Because
it's easy.
Well, hold on. If you made it out, then explain why.
It's easy.
It still exists now.
It's easy.
How?
Mentality.
But you got the same opportunities as,
no.
Do you not?
Yeah, but mentality.
So how do we get everybody in the same frame?
We don't. We can't.
How?
You can't
say that.
If you
a defeatist attitude.
No. If you can't get Republicans and Democrats to believe and work towards the same common goal of pushing this country forward, how are you going to get a person who has already accepted defeat to not be defeated?
Who's accepting defeat?
I'm just talking about person, period.
You believe black people? You believe
no. See, you're trying.
I'm asking.
No, but see, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make us a collective group.
We are,
but we're not.
Haitians are.
No, they're not.
Pretty much.
No, they're not. The part of the Asian community that we tend to look at is we look at the unified part of the Asian community.
Where are the other ones
dysfunctional as we are.
Right. But we forget to look at that they have their mafias and their gangs.
Mm-hmm.
We forget that about the Cambodian gangs in California.
Oh, yes.
Nobody talks about Cambodian crime. They don't talk about the...
So you believe the light is just on us more?
Yeah, of course. Because you know what? It's like James said. This country is built on white supremacy. And the only people that white supremacists are worried about is the people with this melanin right here.
It's true.
Because when it comes down to most of the Asian community, they will conform.
Well, the reason why it's that way is that if you look at it, we are the only people who have come to this country. We didn't come to this country on an airplane. We didn't come to this country through Ellis Island looking at the Statue of Liberty. We came to this country in the hull of slave ships.
Involuntarily. Yeah,
involuntarily. I mean, when what's his name? The doctor who said that, black people, we're immigrants. We weren't immigrants. We have been
Ben
here.
Carson.
Ben Carson. When he said we're immigrants. Yeah.
Stupid shit.
I mean, come on now.
How the fuck are we immigrants?
How are we immigrants?
That's some stupid shit.
Well,
to say.
No. So you know what? We're immigrants in the sense that we wasn't.
Man, ain't
natural.
if I ain't filed for no damn visa, I ain't no immigrant. That's some stupid shit to say.
You look up the definition of immigrant, and then you think differently.
But you know what? We're not immigrants. I'm gonna tell you why we're not immigrants. Because we have been here since the inception of this country. So how can we be an immigrant when we were here before this was a country? Black people were here before this was a country. So we can't be immigrants if we were here before this country.
Right. Well, see, this is, I think, the bigger thing to realize is that what D'Angelo was saying before, opportunities are there. And but not all opportunities are there. If you look at the pipeline from school to prison pipeline, you get a young kid who catches his first case on his 18th birthday.
Right.
And his case was he was caught with marijuana while robbing a store. That's 2 strikes. That's automatically 5 to 7 years. 7 years of his life is ruined. He goes to prison. He does his time. He's supposed to be a reformed citizen. And he gets back out there, but he can't work because he has to check that box that said, are you a convicted felon?
Exactly.
So now the opportunity to get the Pell Grant or to get some type of financial assistance to go to college, you're not eligible for it because you have a felony. You have the knowledge and skill set to go out and do a job that's just above blue collar, but you can't get that job because you got to check that box that says felony. Or that young girl, for whatever reason, she has a baby. She needs a job to be able to take care of her baby, but I got this child. For whatever reason, maybe the father is in the picture, maybe the father isn't. But she needs to take care of her child. And going to college is not going to help her get to that point. But you know what? Selling food stamps will.
Exactly. I mean, the reason why we struggle in our communities is because we're just trying to survive. I mean, that's it. If you look at the things that go on, and I always going back, and I'm always saying that we have so much hypocrisy in this country is such that we look at what happened in the last couple of years with this whole college scandal, where these people who had money were paying these universities, and their kids didn't even meet the criteria in which they could even go to these universities. Case in point, University of Southern California. I grew up 5 blocks from the campus of University of Southern California.
USC.
At USC. The majority of the people that live around USC are mostly Hispanic and black folks.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Yep.
But the people that go to the college, they're not Hispanic and they're not black. They're white folks with money. Now USC has this thing to where after this whole scandal, and this is why I always talk about the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is such that if you had money, you can pay for your kid to go to whatever college they want to. I mean, they were paying ridiculous amounts of money, some of these people who got busted for this. Why would you need to pay $1.5 million for you to get your kid in college? That didn't make sense.
Instead of paying the 1.5 for the education in any college.
Exactly. So my point is this, but the universities were part of the scheme too.
I agree.
I mean, okay, let's now, you know what USC does now? USC now says, I grew up in that area, and what they say now is this: if your kid has the academics to go to this college now, and you as a parent make under $80,000 a year, your kid's tuition is free. They did that because of all of this whole college scandal and stuff. But for years, this went on because it was nothing more than the hypocrisy was going on. I mean, they had celebrities that were trying to put their kids in school and say they was part of the rowing team and they was this and come on now. Whereas you had maybe a Hispanic or a young black kid who was busting their ass, getting straight A's. Parents is working 2.5 jobs. Maybe their mama or daddy is a janitor, so on and so forth. And they have the academics to go to that college, but they knew that they would say, you know what, I'm not going to even put that on my parents. I'm going to enroll in community college.
Yeah. Yep.
The hypocrisy that goes on in this country, man, it's ridiculous.
The hypocrisy is to think that a person could only make $80,000 and survive to live in California.
Exactly.
Because $80,000, that's That's mom's income.
Man, I stayed in California 2 years, and I was like, man, I got to get the hell up out of here. I was in San Jose. First, I was in Santa Clara.
Mm-hmm.
I was in San Jose. I spent a lot. I went to Palo Alto a lot. Yeah, shit. As soon as I had an opportunity to get out of there, I was like, I ain't never gonna afford none of it, man. You know, like I said, I'm from Atlanta, man. Like, shit, $300,000. Well, I can get us some. I can get all of us some. You know what I'm saying? We all can stay there. Shit, and in California, yeah, they was like,
Man,
this $1 million, like a real million, not a play million.
When I lived up there in Northern California, where I met my wife at, and I was looking for a house. I had a Mercedes Benz, but I was looking for a house, and you know this is where I met James at.
Exactly.
And it was like I started looking for a house, and I remember this big sign. They had it on the side of a school bus, and it was parked on the street, and it said $100,000 off. I was geeked, and I couldn't remember what that sign was. And then I remembered, and me and my wife, we was dating at the time, and I go over to this house, and I want to look at it. It's a 3-bedroom like townhouse like, and I walk up in there, and it's
definitely 900 even back then.
Dude, after the $100,000 off, it was $775.
I was just finna say,
and $775,000.
What I tell you, even back then it was 9. Yeah,
for a 3-bedroom, no swimming pool, no backyard.
Hey man, that's a square deal in California.
Man, listen,
square deal right there, man. You should have picked that up.
Now I got laid off my job out there, and I took a job in Georgia. Well, originally North Carolina. 3 days later, they moved me to Georgia. I said, you know what?
Lucky you.
I'm gonna buy me a house. So I go looking for a house, and I know this totally off the topic, but folks, y'all been here for an hour and 26 minutes. You can stay a little bit longer. But I go to buy a house, and I get with this black realtor. She sees my car. I tell her what I want my payments to be. She's going out to find me houses that are $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000 because she sees my car. I had a Mercedes-Benz SL 500.
Yeah, you should tell her.
So I get with this other realtor, white lady. I say, hey, I want me at least 4 bedrooms, a swimming pool, a big front yard, and a big backyard. This is what I tell her. And I tell her the price that I want to pay because I figured I'm not going to lose anything. I can stay over here in this apartment for $300 and some a month because I was making buku money in Georgia.
Wow.
Man, she found me a house, exactly what I wanted. She said, it's a little pricey. I said, really? She said, yeah, they want $117,500.
Shut the hell up, man.
I said, tell them I'll take it. Well, I think we can talk them down. No, somebody else is going to get that house because I came there with this California mentality. Exactly. Everybody is trying to buy up the property.
Hell yeah.
Man, when I was signing those documents to buy that house, the people who were selling it, every document I put in front of me, they took a deep breath. As soon as I finished signing, they go, man. Until I said, you know, when you're buying a house, it's about 200 and some pages in those documents. Man, them people walked up out of there. They didn't high-five me, shake my hand. They was happy. They was happy.
I had an apartment.
Hey, but you know what? We got to back up a little bit because I got to challenge my guy, D'Angelo Gillespie.
What do you?
A person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country is an immigrant.
Wait, hold on. That comes to live permanently. Give it to me again, because I'm about to get you already on the comes.
All right, a person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. Now, when it said comes to live, that doesn't mean they came here.
So we kidnap James and take his ass to Iraq. Does that make him an immigrant?
But did he stay there and live?
Well, shit, if we shackled him I would think. If we shackled his ass
man.
And cut him up and kill him if he leave.
But if we came here before it was a country.
An animal or plant living or growing in a region to which it has.
You can't dumb it down to no plant.
Man, we only 1/5 of human being, I think.
3/5.
Anyway,
3/5.
They don't cheat us.
Yeah, exactly. Quick, give us our lives.
Give us our 2/5.
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys been listening to us go back and forth about this thing. You know, we didn't even title.
We didn't have a topic, man.
Title this, but you know, we engaged James about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning twice, just to get some insight in his perspective on, you know, the state of America and black folks and what we need to do to uplift ourselves out of this field and house Negro mentality.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you open your mind and you start to listen to things, you will see that, you know what? Yes, I'm probably, if we were to break this thing down to a field and a house Negro, I would be the house Negro. Now, I'm not going to sell out my people, but you know what? We get comfortable. We don't want to give up these paychecks to end up back into the field because we know what that struggle is.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And it's a mentality, folks. We're not talking about, you know, you're selling out your race or you're selling out your people, because that house Negro mentality, it's safe.
It is safe.
You know, I'm a black man and I can be shot and killed by police, and I do fear that. But in the neighborhood that I live in, it likely won't happen.
Exactly.
And you're at a point in life to where if someone pulls you over, I'm just gonna give this, you know, and I really hate to dumb it down to say shit like this, because I never believed that this I never believe this has anything to do with it. But my registration and license, all this shit. One second, sir. Let me go on and get this shit for you. You know what I'm saying? Because people like to dumb it down to say, well, maybe they ran because, and another thing, you have no reason to run. Just
Right.
1 second, sir.
And
I'll give
you know what?
everything your ass looking for.
And listen, we're not trying to be dismissive.
Nope.
Like Philando Castillo, he tried to do everything right.
Yep.
And I believe that officer, he wanted to kill him. I do believe that in some of these cases that officers waited to the perfect opportunity where they felt that legally they can pull that trigger.
Yep. They can frame it.
Because if you allow a person to walk to a vehicle at least 25, 30 feet to a vehicle, and once they get there, you can frame your story and you shoot them. And I think that gentleman's name was Terrence Kircher. Then there was the Jacob Blake.
Yeah, I think you're speaking of the Jacob Blake one.
No, there was Terrence Kircher first.
Who walked around to the car? Who going to the door?
No, so his vehicle was parked in the middle of the street when a police officer came up on it.
See.
And he was coming from a wooded area, like maybe he went to go take a leak or something. And I've done this. And she's telling, supposedly these body cams don't have audio, but she's telling him to freeze. She has her gun on him, and his hands is up. And in my mind, you could be saying, put your hands on the car. And as he gets to the car, he raises his hands, because I think it was like an SUV or something like that. But he has to raise his hand to the roof. And as soon as he did that, she shot him.
Saying what?
You know,
he did what? If his hands up.
Well, he walked about a good 25, 30 feet. She's kind of tracing him with the gun, supposedly telling him to stop.
But
once he gets
there's
to the
no audio. There's no audio.
Right, there's no audio. Okay. But, you know, her testimony was, I was telling him to stop. They said they found some one of them old school 70 drugs in the car, you know, one of those high-end drugs. They found it in the car or whatever, and he was a drug addict. Whatever.
Listen, man, all this shit sound good when only one person telling the story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, shit, it all sound believable.
And, you know, and that's what we get down to is, you know, and what I was saying when I started that statement is, we're not trying to dismiss when, you know, these illogical decisions are made not to prosecute cops that are killing folks. We're not saying that there's only a certain type of Negro or black person gets killed. We're not saying that at all. What we're trying to frame for you is a mentality. What we're trying to point out to you is that our thought process and understanding how the process of America works, because when we're talking about the house Negro or the house slave and the field slave, let's take the Negro out of it, because I think that's where I may lose people.
We talking about a frame of mind.
But
Exactly.
but what we also talking about is it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with your race, because white folks, you're in the field too.
Exactly.
White folks, you're in the house too. And they keep pitting the house slave against the field slave, which in turn puts us in a situation that we are now in this country, divided.
You know, man, this podcast has just been about giving game, man. And I just want to say this before we wrap this. If y'all got some people, y'all got some folks that's a little older than you, who done seen a little bit more than you, been some places you ain't been. Make sure that you are around and you are trying to soak up some game and get some knowledge from these people who you know have a wealth of knowledge and lived a little bit of life. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that's some of it. Some of this shit is not just not being around somebody to tell you and tell you better than what you know and what you see. Shit, if when nobody ever challenged me on getting my passport, maybe I wouldn't have never got it. Maybe I'd never see more than Atlanta, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of this shit is being afraid, like you said, James, to go past your street.
It's true.
You know, it's a lot of world out there, man. It's a lot of people out there, a lot of cultures out there, a lot of knowledge that you can go seek out for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And especially if you're a black man. And I even hate to dumb that shit down to just us, but these are the people I'm most familiar with, black men. Black men, do yourself the favor of going out here and seeking knowledge and becoming better every day and having something more than just the shit you see around your hood to download into your kids. You know what I'm saying?
That's
just
real. I mean, as my friend used to tell me, when you know better, you do better.
Absolutely.
So you go out there and you learn. And I mean, just like you said, most of the time we don't go anywhere to learn anything. When you get that passport and you go across that water and you go to different places and you see different places and stuff, I've traveled and been to at least 14, 15 different countries. And when you come back and you see what's going on in your own country, you have a different frame of mind. Now, every place that I went to, I used to think that, you know, that we as Americans think that, oh, we the shit.
Yeah.
But then when I went to other countries and they asked me, where you from? I said, oh, I'm from the United States. And they said, and they would actually think that, you know, U.S. was it. I don't know if I can necessarily tell people that now with the administration right now.
Yeah.
Now you go somewhere and you ask them where you from, and
goddamn embarrassed.
They start snickering
Exactly.
and laughing at you and pointing at you.
Oh,
And
the
then
first
they
thing-
go to their friend and start pointing at you.
The first thing they say, oh, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
and they laugh. Dude, they did me like that in Paris.
Yeah, I know.
You know. Hey, listen, you know, we talk about a lot about traveling. We talked a lot about stuff on here. I want to challenge you guys. Get your passport.
Yeah, do that, man.
You know, don't get stuck in the mentality thinking you can't afford something. Get your passport. Get out there. See the world. You know what?
Come back home and tell somebody else.
Exactly.
Before we close this podcast out, everybody, I want to tell you one thing. Every story has a few bad chapters. All right? So you don't have to rewrite those chapters, but learn from them and teach others. All right? Also, coming up, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be the grand opening. Every Friday and Saturday, a safe, clean, and indoor space for BIPOC. Do y'all know what that means? Y'all figure that out. These are creators and showcase products and services. And it's going to be October 9th and 10th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is PDX Black Collective Night Market. This is a grand opening. This is going to be going on into the end of the year, I believe.
Yeah, and it's every Friday and Saturday. I
Right.
believe.
So, and this is located at 215 Southeast Morrison Street, Suite 2004, Portland, Oregon, 97214. Info at pdxblackco.com. There will also be live music by DJ Solo. Shopper tickets required for entry, and they're only $5 on pdxblackco.com. Listen, mention Uncle Clint's name. You can mention D'Angelo Gillespie also. But also tell him you heard about this on 2 Cent the podcast.
Yep.
All right. You might be able to get $1 or something off. All right. Support your black businesses. Support.
Yeah, yeah, we about that.
Hey, we want to thank our guest, Mr. James Garland, a good friend of mine. We go back, I don't want to say how many years. We'll start telling our age around here, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, we go back Silicon Valley days. You know, people, get out there. Once again, every story has a few bad chapters. Let's learn from them and rewrite the good ones. That's my 2 cents. Thanks for tuning in.
This has been 2 Cents, the podcast, hosted by Clinton Washington, with co-host D'Angelo Gillespie, brought to you by Underway Entertainment and Pound the Pavement Productions. Thanks for listening.